The story takes place in the 5th century before Christ. Its characters are fictional, but their relationships reflect ancient Indian laws attributed to Manu. The silence of the night village sometimes seems complete, but it's actually filled with many subtle sounds. In the distance, water dropped from the rice fields. Nearby, a mother duck quacked, searching for lost ducklings. On such a night, when it seemed even the stars were asleep, the village woke to a mighty rumble. A herd of elephants suddenly swept over the rice fields. At first, the ground barely trembled. I woke up, my heart pounding with fear and anxiety. My best friend Rihaz also woke and whispered, "Listen, it's not the wind, it's something big." Then we saw them, huge shadows moving through the night, breaking rice stalks, trampling the earth, leaving ruin behind. The shaking was felt even inside the little house where we, 2 boys, slept. If you enjoy this kind of content and want to hear more fascinating stories, make sure to subscribe and leave a like, but only if you're genuinely interested. I was supposed to strike the copper gong, an old village custom. A large gong hung between 2 mango trees at the edge of the rice field. When danger came, someone had to hit it hard to raise alarm across the valley. It once saved us from wild boars, snakes, and thieves. Now it could save the main crop. But I had dozed off. The night's warm air, the rice smell, and the gentle hum of insects lulled me as a mother would lull a child. When I woke, the elephants were already trampling our crop. I ran full speed to the house, sweaty and filled with terrible guilt. Behind me, Rihaz's voice sounded with mixed reproach and sympathy. "Where are you running? You won't outrun trouble." Sunrise in our village is always full of ceremonies. Women in bright saris bring water from the river in pots. Young men help elders kindle fires. Jasmine and coconut oil smells float from the homes. Every family prepares small offerings, a handful of cooked rice placed near the hearth as thanks for the new day. After the night of elephants, everything changed. At dawn, the loud call of the metal horn gathered the old and the young at the Brahmin's house. The Brahmin was a respected man, his gray beard falling to his chest. He rarely spoke without reason and knew the best prayers for all occasions. His house, the first clay hut after the temple, was decorated with banana leaves and lotus flowers in tubs. Everyone gathered. Men, women with children, youth, even the smallest listened, hiding behind mothers. Some brought cattle or goats, as caring for animals was a sign of wisdom. "If you walk with livestock, you walk in plenty," the old Parshat would say. The elders stroked their white beards thoughtfully, recalling the hardships of past generations. One spoke of flood waters destroying crops in his childhood. Another told how a tiger in the forest had taken 3 children and 2 goats the following year. The Brahmin listened carefully, then urged the village to unite. Fate comes to the strong. Those who gather as one will survive both nature's forces and our current trial. Some nodded quietly, "Perhaps we angered the gods." Another said, "Maybe evil spirits have come? We need to cleanse the village." Women lit incense at the temple, and children washed their faces from a shared bowl, reciting ancient mantras passed from mother to daughter. My mother took me by the shoulder. "We must ask forgiveness from Ganga. Maybe the waters will cleanse the evil." We dipped our hands in clay bowls and whispered prayers, a familiar and comforting ritual. Childhood in our village felt like fresh earth, warm sun and crispy rice. During the day, the children gathered under the old mango alley, seeking shade and inventing endless games. Some made mazes from dry stalks. Others told tales of tigers turning into wise men or elephants that could be persuaded with water and song. I often remembered racing Rihas over narrow ditches or picking more acacia flowers for our mother. At night, we sat on stones by the river while Rihas spoke excitedly of noble houses, their archery training and bright garments with red stripes. He dreamed of becoming a warrior to protect his kin and justice, while I saw myself as a bird who flew over fields, fearless of the night. After the elephants trampled the fields, much changed. Adults grew stricter, voices carried worry. Children felt this tension, even our games softened. Villagers no longer called us loudly at dinner. Tales of past crop failures and borrowing grain from moneylenders were whispered in every home. That strange word, moneylender, I first heard from my father late one night. In my mind, a moneylender was a wizard, able to turn stones to rice, knowing every road and cooking magical potions. Riha said a moneylender in their yard had once asked for lodging. He was recognized immediately by his bald head and sharp eyes. These days I often dreamed of old village festivals. dances near the temple, jasmine garlands and vinca weaving, nights by oil lamps, when my father shared parables of wisdom and the importance of dignity in carrying one's karma. In my dreams, I was that boy laughing with friends, chasing butterflies and unafraid of tomorrow. But gradually childhood tasted of fear and growing up. Some children cruelly mocked those without barley fields, others shut themselves away. I was tormented by guilt for the night I dozed beside the gong. I tried to talk to my father, asking why our family's troubles were so heavy, why Rihaz's friend got better prices from the moneylender. Father explained simply, the world has rules, not always fair. Each caste fate is a path to accept. But even the darkest night can be lit by a good heart. He told of how his grandfather taught him to guard not only the harvest but also words, as careless lies could bring harm. Maybe that's why our village practiced forgiveness, even for those who sinned. Evenings I sat by the fire with my mother who braided a yellow bead bracelet. She softly sang an ancient song about a girl whose tears became dew that saved the fields. I watched her hands, thinking how the adult world is complex, but close by is always someone to give hope. The city we traveled to with my father seemed huge and unfathomable to a village boy. Narrow streets twisted between houses with clay and stone walls, crowded with people and bright goods. The air was rich with the smell of spices, baked bread, fried fish and fragrant herbs. I breathed in every scent, trying to calm both the blood in my veins and my fear of the unknown. The king's palace rose behind a wall so strong and tall that just seeing it filled me with respect and fear. The ruler's power was obvious in every stone. It was hard to believe our small family came to beg for help among such people. Soldiers with huge spears guarded the gate, refusing us entry, so my father approached the royal judge in the market square. A crowd had gathered, traders, artisans, peasants, even those who were punished, sitting in cages and begging for mercy. I never forgot the sight of those poor souls, their dirty hands reaching through the bars, their eyes full of hopelessness. My father whispered, "These are criminals punished for breaking the law. This teaches others to respect the king." I felt pity for them. Even the worst among people deserves compassion. The judge, adorned in gold embroidery and precious hat, received our case with apparent indifference. He quickly explained that I must give the moneylender 1.5 measures of grain for every loaned amount, while my neighbor had a different arrangement with higher interest. The moneylender was a powerful and cruel man, he said, able to destroy both my father and us if we did not comply. Returning home heavy-hearted, I told this to Rihaz. He was proud that his father secured more grain for a lower rate. "He's better connected," he explained, "and you should have bargained better." When I returned to the city, I saw the same courtyard paved with stone slabs, an iron cauldron in which something was cooking, and a boy who, I was told, was pawned for someone else's debts. He was thin and sad, going many days without enough food. This boy became my unexpected companion. He told me how he was given in pawn to a thug, a terrible man with a fox-like face and hooked nose. Now I understood that the word thug became a synonym for moneylender, because he swallowed people alive, taking away their will and freedom. Life in the moneylender's house was hard and monotonous. I helped prepare food in the iron pot, mixed brews, ran between rooms following orders. Overhead, I always felt unkindness. The moneylender never played with words and his cold eyes never left me. With his harsh, sneaky voice, he reminded me I was only his possession, a guarantee for my father's debts, and my life depended on his mood. I could not defend myself as I was not allowed to speak with the low-caste servants, who lived separately and knew all the city's marshes and filth. But at least their lives, though tough, were shared. I began to value the smallest acts of kindness. A random look of another boy, a sad laugh with Rihaz, shared dreams about home, about other fields where the sun didn't fight against the rice. My father worked hard in the village to repay the debt, but the debt trap only grew like a terrible fungus. The more he paid, the more interest accumulated. I understood more and more. To survive, we needed not only physical strength but spiritual strength. And not just hoping for mercy but determination to change our lives. My thoughts often returned to the copper gong I once had to beat to call the village to help. I dreamed of the day when I could stand up and say, "Enough suffering." But it was unclear if I would have the strength to endure. Dark evenings I lay on a worn mat, listening to the distant drum beating that seemed to call me to freedom. My memories felt like chains holding me back. Rihaz's jokes, my mother's voice, the smell of rice fields. Sometimes, the moneylender came with his squeaky voice and cold gaze reminding me, "Work boy, don't forget you belong to me and your father." His words sounded like a sentence, but I dreamed of something else. The time will come when even the greatest walls fall, and freedom becomes the most precious gift. This hope warmed me in the darkest moments and gave me strength to hear the whisper of the wind calling, "Hold on, for freedom is a battle you must win." Life in the moneylender's house was bleak and hopeless. Every day I did routine hard work, cooking in an iron pot, mixing herbs and spices, running from room to room carrying out orders. Above me, I constantly felt his displeasure. The moneylender did not mince words, and his cold eyes never left me. With his harsh, sneering voice, he reminded me that I was his property, a guarantee for my father's debt, and my life depended on his mood. I had no way to defend myself because I was forbidden to talk to the low-caste servants, who lived separately and knew all the city's swamps and filth. But at least their lives, although hard, were shared. I began to appreciate the smallest acts of kindness: a glance from another boy, a sad laugh with Rihas, shared dreams about home and other fields where the sun didn't fight the rice. My father worked hard in the village to pay the debt, but the debt trap grew like a terrible fungus. The more he paid, the more the interest rose. I increasingly understood, to survive we needed not only physical strength but strength of spirit. And not just passively hoping for mercy but determination to change our life. My thoughts often turned to the copper gong I once had to beat to call the village to help. I dreamed of the day I could rise again and say, "Enough of wandering," but it was unclear if I would have the strength to endure. Dark evenings I lay on my worn mat, hearing distant drumbeats calling me to freedom. My memories were like chains holding me back. Rihas's jokes, my mother's voice, the scent of rice fields. Sometimes the moneylender came with his cold smile and said, "Work boy, don't forget you belong to me and your father." His words sounded like a sentence, but I dreamed differently. The time would come when even the greatest walls would fall, and freedom would be the most precious gift. This hope warmed me in the darkest moments and gave me strength to listen to the whispering wind calling, "Hold on, for freedom is a battle you must win." The return of my father from the city always meant hope, sometimes timid anxiety. This time he looked like he brought something important but measured. His eyes shone not only with fatigue but with determination, like a promise. "I brought seed grain," he said, dragging a heavy sack of rye. "Tomorrow I will go again, for the loan is only partial." I felt relief, but a bitter taste remained in my mouth. Why was our debt constantly growing like dough in a vat? Why did the moneylender send a slow-moving shadow to squeeze my life tighter and tighter? At home I found the rice fields devastated. The sun shone hot as if to measure our suffering. My mother fed me water, embraced me softly, and my soul sought shelter in her gentle voice, saying everything would be fine. "Father said the queen and goddesses see every suffering, every worker," mother said. "You are strong, son." But how could I be strong when every day brought new limits? I was taught to be silent, never to doubt, but inside I burned with questions. Where was justice? Where was freedom? Sometimes in the village streets, I saw people hiding their eyes, afraid to speak of the moneylenders holding everyone in fear. Some spoke angrily of laws made for the rich only. But I believed that even in the darkest night, dawn would come. In the gloomiest days, I stopped often to watch the sky over the village where birds circled in a free dance. Their songs sounded like something constant, unchanging. This inspired me. One evening, sitting by the shaded tree, I heard elders tell stories of long ago days when no elephant dared step on our fields because gods fiercely guarded the land. They told of strong warriors and wise Brahmins who stood guard, and peasants living united and respectfully. These stories awakened strength in me. I began to wonder, could we change everything? Could the contract with the moneylender be different? Were there educated people able to help us fight injustice? Sometimes hope came unexpectedly, like a gentle breeze in summer heat. I dreamed of the day when my gong's sound would echo across the valley, a signal uniting the village and starting change. Slowly I prepared, not just physically but in spirit. I understood that the struggle would not forgive weakness. My thoughts turned often to freedom, silent but mighty, awakening a person even when all seems hopeless. The city I once saw through fear and bondage began to reveal other faces, faces of hope, attempts to change fate, seekers of justice. My father went again to ask for grain from the moneylender, but this time knowledgeable, ready to fight. The moneylender, his house, and the pawn boy remained the same, but the atmosphere changed. There were people who knew of injustice, who dared speak about oppression. Wise elders told of sacred laws meant to protect the weak, not maim them. Once I overheard two men talking at the market. They spoke of a special caste in the city, people rewriting laws and settling disputes. These people helped some borrowers negotiate with moneylenders, others seek protection in royal courts. This word, pyre, sounded like strange music in an unfamiliar tongue. It became a symbol of hope for me. For if there are those who can help change the rules, maybe liberty will return someday. Returning to the village, I shared the news with Rihas. I saw the spark in his eyes fade and reignite with every word. He spoke of dreams to become a warrior to protect kin and justice, not just to toil in the fields. Days passed in the moneylender's house in the same grayness. The moneylender grew harsher, justifying his rule by law and caste structure. His creaky voice could pierce the thickest stone of indifference. "Work boy, don't forget you belong to me and your father," he repeated. His words sounded like a verdict, but I dreamed differently. The time must come to choose, to submit, tightening chains, or to fight for freedom no matter how hard. This hope warmed me in the darkest hours and gave me strength to hear the whispering wind calling me to hold on. Each day my heart grew stronger. Despite the hard labor in the moneylender's house, I felt something new awakening inside me, an inner strength that no chains or threats could break. I began noticing small things once overlooked. A look from a girl in a neighboring village who cast a sad gaze my way, remarks from the old Brahmin who told me at every meeting, "Freedom is not just a right, it is a state of the soul." His simple words pierced me like sunlight through clouds. One evening, sitting by the fire, I started pondering my past and future. I remembered childhood games, laughter with Rihas, family dinners, the scent of flowers once my whole world. I recalled my mother's words about gods and prayers taught since childhood. They were my refuge in despair. But most of all, I wondered how to change life. How to give our village a chance for a better future. I saw spies spreading rumors and fear, but I believed in the power of knowledge and people who dared fight injustice. I began seeking out other pawn boys, who had their own dreams and secret hopes. They trusted me, and together we planned how to gather strength, support each other, and not let the moneylenders break our spirit. Though the work was hard and the emptiness in my heart was frightening, belief in freedom gave me inspiration. I understood, even the darkest night will change to dawn, even the harshest king fears a united people. My thoughts and actions began to take shape. I learned not only to hold a hammer but to listen, speak, and envision a future for myself and those close to me. One evening, I overheard the old and young gathering quietly in the Brahmin's house. They spoke in whispers, about new ideas, about the injustice of moneylenders and those who trapped us in debt chains. It was a moment when fear began to retreat and hope emerged. The Brahmin, his gray beard flickering in candlelight, spoke slowly, "Every soul longs for freedom, and even gods cannot deny a free heart. We must unite, find strength, and protect those who cannot defend themselves." For the first time in a long while, people felt part of something greater, a community capable of opposing moneylenders. Someone suggested writing a petition to the king. Others talked about forming a support network to help each other if danger came. Though young, I was entrusted to be the mediator among families. My heart raced with responsibility and hope. The next day, I visited villagers, sharing plans and hearing fears. Many doubted change, but those who believed became my network. Stories of moneylenders and harsh laws turned into a shared fight, and every small step gave us strength. I realized, it is not only elephants who bring misfortune to our village, the greatest danger is silence and inaction. One morning, as the sun just began to light the field slopes, I gathered courage and spoke to a few village families. My heart pounded, my voice trembling, but I had to speak out. "We cannot live in fear anymore," I said, looking at my neighbors. "Our fields are ruined, crops lost, debts growing. Moneylenders will not give peace while we stay silent. We must unite and demand justice." Some nodded, others looked wary. But a few elders, experienced and wise, supported me. Soon, people with various skills joined us. Negotiators, legal minds, strategists. We began planning how to defend our land and fight moneylenders not with swords but with words and unity. Not everyone welcomed our intentions. The moneylender and his allies threatened, tried to disrupt meetings, spread rumors. But we held together, realizing their power was in our division. One evening, Moneylender's guards came to my home and threatened me to stop organizing the village. Fear gripped me, but I quickly realized, the time for fear was past. Faith in our strength grew stronger than threats. We promised to stand firm, for the fight is the path to freedom. Determined, we set out for the capital to present our plea directly to the king. The path passed through rocky plains full of dangers and adventures. Our group was made of the bravest and most resolute, people united by a common goal. The journey was long and fatigue sometimes overwhelming, but we encouraged each other. My thoughts filled with memories of our village, the fields destroyed by floods and elephants, the hum of the copper gong that could restore peace if only indifference did not reign. We met villages living in respect and harmony, where Brahmins performed rituals for a good harvest and children played to birdsong. This gave hope. Perhaps elsewhere one could live free and unafraid. But not everyone lived so. Bandits lurked at the empire's border, attacking travelers. Resisting them was difficult, but we kept formation, learning to act together. Arriving at the capital, we were struck by its grandeur, broad streets, palaces, and temples of many peoples. Yet there was despair and distrust among those ruled by foreign laws. Appealing to the king was no easy task. We faced many tests and heard many empty promises. But we persevered, believing truth and justice would find their path. Finally, I stood before the copper gong again, this time not to sound an alarm about elephants, but to announce the start of change. The day of judgment in the capital was filled with tension and hope at the same time. Before the royal judge stood people from all corners of the empire, rich and poor, those unafraid to speak the truth. We, representatives of the village, gathered together, united by a common fate. The judge, a man in rich attire with a sharp gaze, listened carefully to our complaint about the moneylender, his harsh terms and unfair interest that brought our families to the edge of survival. I saw tears and determination shining in the listener's eyes. The moneylender's words were cold and confident, claiming he acted within the law, and those who do not pay must face punishment. But the voice of the tired people would not be silenced. We proved that laws often serve the powerful, forgetting the rights of the weak. My father spoke firmly and convincingly, supported by others, nobles, merchants, even soldiers. Seeing our resolve, the judge promised to bring the case to the king's attention. The city streets filled with murmurs, people awaiting changes that could alter their lives. We felt the weight of every word and knew our story would not be forgotten. Despite all difficulties, this day marked the beginning of a new chapter, a chapter of struggle for justice and dignity. When the matter reached the king, everyone awaited his decision with trepidation and hope. The king, a wise and stern man, listened to our complaints but remained silent for a long time. His eyes, dignified and fearless, seemed to see not only our present but the empire's future. At last he spoke. "I am the protector of the weak and punish the mighty for their crimes. The moneylender who oppresses the people shall be punished. Laws must serve justice, not profit." These words became a ray of light in the darkness. The palace was filled with murmurs of support, and I felt our journey was only beginning. Soon the moneylender was summoned to the king's court. He was forbidden to charge excessive interest, and debtors were granted leniency. Furthermore, a committee of representatives from different castes was formed to oversee the enforcement of the new rules. News of this spread quickly through the village. People looked toward tomorrow with fear but also hope. My father returned home changed, filled with strength and faith in a better future. From then on, our work was not in vain, and though the fight for freedom still lay ahead, we knew, together we could achieve the impossible. Since then, our village began slowly to revive. There appeared a belief that even in the darkest days, light can be seen. Smiles returned, and the fields were cultivated with new hope. My father, though tired, appeared more often near the yard, speaking of changes in the city and how the king listens to the people's voice. I understood freedom is not just a word. It is resilience and courage we must nurture in our hearts. Death is not as frightening as living in chains of fear and hopelessness. Our village became an example for others, a story of how even a small community can rise against injustice. And when I beat the copper gong again, it will no longer be a call to alarm but a call to a new life and true freedom.